Hello, welcome to Toffee TV. This is the Toffee TV Everton podcast. This is another edition of the Nedcam podcast, joined by Cameron from the Mighty Blues. Cameron, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm not so bad, to be honest. It's been a decent start to the week. Obviously, we've had the first win since West Brom, which feels good. Obviously, it wasn't a great win. We'll start with the Arsenal game. What did you make of the very boring 0-0 game that happened to turn out 1-0?
I think you just summed it up perfectly there, to be honest with you. Yeah, look, it wasn't a great game whatsoever, but I've said it a couple of times recently. At this point in the season, with us still trying to keep our sort of name in the hat for Europe, the performance isn't really what matters. It's the results at the moment, and obviously, like you mentioned, coming off the back of 3 draws on the bounce and 3 games, the Palace game in which we created a plethora of opportunities and couldn't take them, the Tottenham game in which we basically gifted them the point with silly mistakes. We just desperately needed the win, and it wasn't the greatest performance whatsoever by either team. It seemed like a game of two sides that just didn't really have much quality in them whatsoever. I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't press Arsenal as much as we did Tottenham the week before. We didn't get at them a little bit more because I think we'd have forced them into making more mistakes. Obviously, the goal come from a shocking defensive mistake, but I think if we'd have got at them a little bit quicker, they'd have made more of those. But ultimately, mate, you can't complain. 6-7 games to go, and you're still sort of in and around 3-5 points away from those teams that are sort of in the top 5 or 6 places. You just need to be getting results and getting wins. And if you were to say to me now, every game goes like that between now and the end of the season, and you win every game 1-0 with a silly own goal, I'd take it. I'd snap your hand off for it, because I get that it's not great watching performances like that, and it is a bit frustrating, but ultimately, a win's a win. And look, we performed very well against Tottenham the week before, and we come away with only a point, and we really needed to win in that game. So I'm happy. I'm glad that we've now got that, sort of run of 3 draws on the bounce out the way, because nobody, likes drawing. It completely takes away your momentum. You just, when you draw a game, it's just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and listen, I don't want to say, we've got a game in hand over the teams above us. I know we have, but people don't like saying it because you've got to win that game in hand. But let's just say there's more points to play for. So I suppose we're right in it. And obviously, it's 3 home games we've got left. Is it Wolves, Villa, and Sheffield United? I mean, you look at those fixtures. Obviously, we're not being so great at home this season, but you just think we should be beating those teams anyway, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, like you mentioned, our home form hasn't been particularly good whatsoever. But ultimately and realistically, I think, like you said before about the Arsenal game, at this point in the season, we just need to start picking up wins. And we are still in that race for Europe. We are still in the hat, obviously. I think, you mentioned the game in hand. I don't like talking about the game in hand because it feels like that's all we constantly say. Oh, yeah, we've got this game in hand. But the reality of the situation is that game in hand is against the team that we realistically should be beating. We're playing them on Saturday. The game in hand still hasn't been scheduled. I don't know why, but we're playing Aston Villa on Saturday. And realistically, we have to go out and win. Because if we've got any aspiration of playing in the European competition next season, teams like Aston Villa, and that's no disrespect to them, but you have to be able to turn up and beat. And I get that we haven't been great at home. One thing I would say is we were much better at home against Tottenham than we have been for the majority of this season. So hopefully we can take that sort of form in and perform like we did against Spurs, with the exception of hopefully we don't make the stupid defensive mistakes. But no, you're right, mate. It's every game's a must-win now. Every game's a must-win, especially considering how tight it is in the table as well. Yeah. You can't afford to drop points at this point in the season.
Well, we're still in there, aren't we? We're right in there for, we could easily finish 6th this season. We just got to win our games and hope the other fixtures go our way, really. But how many times have we been saying, we win this, we go 6th, or we win this, we go 4th, and we've bottled it every time. We make it up to finish, and we seem to be the own achievers of our own downfall. So going back to the Arsenal game, what did you make of Godfrey and Holgate at centre-backs? Obviously, the team news came out, and we saw him against Fulham, and you couldn't really handle Josh Madger. So thankfully, Aubameyang and Lacazette wasn't in there. So what was your thoughts on when you saw them at centre-back and then after the game?
I was a little bit concerned, obviously, only because I wanted Yerry Mina in there. As soon as I heard Yerry Mina was fit on Thursday afternoon by Carlo, I thought, right, great, get Yerry Mina in there, because if there's one thing that was evidently clear from the Spurs game is that we missed Yerry Mina massively. I still stick by my point, mate, that we wouldn't have conceded those 2 goals with Yerry Mina on the pitch, because I think he clears both of those crosses in the Spurs game. So Yeah, I was a little bit sort of worried, but I was just happy to see it forward at the back, to be honest with you, because, even though we've had a lot of centre-back partnerships this season, and even though, like you mentioned, Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate didn't perform brilliantly against Fulham whatsoever early on in the season, I just don't think five at the back works at all. I can't remember the last time we performed brilliantly defensively with a five at the back formation. I don't think Michael Keane likes it, suits it. I don't think he's comfortable in it. I don't think Mason Holgate's comfortable in it. I think Ben Godfrey's comfortable anywhere, but I just don't like a five at the back. So as soon as I seen four at the back, I was happy. And I think both defenders done a really, really good job. I thought Mason had a solid game. Look, Ben Godfrey, I say it every week, mate. He's an 8 out of 10 every week. I can't remember the last time Ben Godfrey put in a bad Everton performance. He's played 23, 25 times for Everton this season. And can anyone honestly name a bad game? Yes, there may be games where he's performed better than others, but even in those games where we've defended poorly, you look at Ben Godfrey and think, yeah, Ben was decent today. Everybody else was dross, but Ben had a decent game. So I was happy with Ben Godfrey in there. And like I said, Mason, again, if I was to pick any one of the four centre-backs who wouldn't have played before the game, it would have been Mason Holgate. But then obviously we read that Michael Keane had picked up an injury. Yerry Mina obviously wasn't fit to start. He was only fit to make the bench. So look, I understood as soon as I see Michael Keane was out that there wasn't much of an option. And I'd rather Yerry Mina have not started if he wasn't 100% fit, because I don't want him to pick up a further injury, because let's be honest, we really, really need him between now and the end of the season. And I thought the both of them done okay. I thought they defended well. There was a couple of times when Arsenal got in behind, but I thought for the majority of the game, Mason looked a lot more comfortable than he has done in the last couple of weeks. And I think there's a lot to be said about that, and playing as one of the centre-backs in the back four and looking a lot more comfortable than he usually does.
Yeah, I thought they were all right, to be honest. Obviously, I wasn't too confident. I don't want to say I wasn't confident before the game, but it wasn't, you start getting flashbacks of Fulham, don't you? But
yeah,
I don't see them as a future partnership. What do you think? Do you see them as a future partnership?
No, I don't. To be honest with you, I don't. I think it's difficult, the centre-back situation, isn't it? Because there's the argument with Evertonians is always there. Well, firstly, who's our best centre-back? Some would say Yerry Mina, some wouldn't say Yerry Mina, some would say Ben Godfrey. I'd say Ben is probably the most consistent. I think he's Mr. Consistent and he's Mr. Reliable, to be honest with you. But I think I'd say Yerry Mina. Michael Keane has had a really good season up until the last couple of weeks or so. I remember Michael Keane at the start of the season was excellent. So I don't see them. I don't see Mason and Ben as a future centre-back partnership, to be honest, because I think that they both are a lot better when they've got that sort of experience playing next to them. I know that's quite, it sounds stupid considering the goals we conceded against Tottenham, but I don't know. It's difficult for me, because I'd say going into next season, I'd have Yerry Mina in there next to Ben Godfrey as the number, or Yerry Mina and Michael Keane performed brilliantly for large part of the season. They were brilliant, certainly when we had to play with the four centre-backs across the back line. So it's difficult to say. It's also difficult to say because we don't know what's going to happen in the summer. Of course, there's been rumours about Yerry Mina potentially leaving the football club. I don't think he will, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think Yerry Mina has to be one of the two at least. And, it's very difficult to say Ben Godfrey shouldn't be in there either, because he's, like I said, he's Mr. Consistent, isn't he?
Yeah, they're all different types of centre-backs, really, aren't they? I mean, Yerry Mina is... I suppose you are right in saying Yerry Mina is the best defender. He's the smartest defender, really, isn't he?
Yeah.
And Godfrey's that, he's that. They're all good at doing things that other centre-backs might not be so great at. So obviously Yerry Mina he's a brilliant defender. He's not got the legs, really, as he's not fast, but you put him next to a Godfrey. And so for me, the partnership going forward would be Mina and Godfrey. Mina being the classic stopper, clear your lines, really good aerial. And Godfrey's that, he's not the smartest. He's smart. He's a smart lad. He's not the smartest centre back like Yerry Mina, but he's a real athlete. He's a stopper. He's got the legs, he's pacey, really good at getting stuck in. So for me, obviously there's been talks about Koulibaly coming in, and Yerry Mina going out. But for me, it would be Yerry and Godfrey, and then you'd have the backup twos. Keane coming for Mina, because they're not like for like, but they're both similar type of Keane's a low block, good aerial. Pretty good on the ball, and Holgate's that sort of mobile, quite quick, athletic sort of centre back as well. So they would be the options for me going forward. And obviously once Keane goes out the door, Branthwaite can come in for a backup for Mina and maybe even be the successor for Yerry Mina. But what's your thoughts on the Koulibaly links? Can you see him being an interesting summer signing, or do you think it's just all rumours?
It's a mad one, isn't it? It's difficult because Koulibaly is now 29 years old, and I stick by my point is that I don't really think a centre back is our main priority in the summer. To be honest with you, I think right back is number one. I think right winger or just a tricky winger that can beat a man is probably number two. And I also think that another midfielder with a bit of energy that can sort of come in when Abdoulaye Doucouré's out is probably number three. I look at the Koulibaly stuff, and I think if Everton were a centre back away from being the best team in the world or the best team in the country, then yeah, maybe you'd say, right, go and take that punt on Koulibaly. It cost you whatever, £30 million, 29 years old, but you know when he comes in, we're then going to be the best team in the country. We're going to win the league. We're going to win the Champions League. We're going to, dominate English football. But we're not that centre back away from being that team. So by the time Koulibaly comes in and we are that team, he's probably 33, 34 and has either moved on or looking to move on. So again, he's a very, very good defender. He really, really is. And maybe he would fix a lot of our defensive issues. But I just think there's other areas in the pitch that I want Everton to focus on before we focus on defending. If Everton were, like I said, a centre-back away, a bit like them lot were across the park, a centre-back away from being the perfect sort of team altogether, then I'd say go and take your punt on him. But we're not. We're a right-back, we're a winger, we're a centre midfielder, probably again, maybe some would even argue another centre-forward.
Yeah.
So again, I do think it's it's an easy rumour to make up, isn't it, by journalists. You've got a defender who probably a defender who's been rumoured to be leaving Napoli for about the last 10 years. You've got Carlo Ancelotti, who's worked with said defender before. There's this big rumour about the Italian market being, needing money invested into it because of financial issues. So you just all lash them together, make an article, and people click on it. The reality of the situation is Koulibaly's been linked with Premier League clubs consistently for the last 5 or 6 years, from my knowledge anyway.
Since 2015 at least, isn't it?
Yeah. And I just think Everton are the latest one of those clubs. Do I think it'll happen? No. Would they be happy if it did happen for the right price and the right wage? Maybe, because he would come in and improve Everton. There's no question about that. He would improve Everton. But if he was to come in, someone would have to leave, be it Mina, probably Mina or Keane, one of them two would have to go. But I don't see it happening, if I'm being honest, mate. I don't.
Well, it's not a priority, is it? You could argue that centre-back position is our most equipped position on the field. Obviously, we've got other big areas. Obviously, like you said, centre-forward. If Josh King leaves, then we'll have to bring possibly another centre-forward or a winger in. So he's a player who can play both. But in terms of midfielders, obviously, against Arsenal, we saw a fresh midfielder come on who's not played since Burnley, in Fabian Delph. What did you make of Fabian Delph? I think he stood out. Obviously, he had the white socks on, so he did stand out for me. What did you make of his return?
He stood out massively, didn't he? Firstly, because he had the wrong socks on, and secondly, because he was dreadful, to be honest. Look, I don't want to go too deep into Fabian Delph. I'm not a fan of Fabian Delph, and I'd sell him in the summer if we got the correct bid. I don't really criticise Marcel Brands for the Fabian Delph signing either, to be honest, because I remember when we brought him in, I thought, £8 million, won the league, seemed like a leader in that Manchester City setup, but at least what we all seen on the documentary. So I thought, bring him in. If anything, he'll bring that bit of leadership, he'll bring that little bit of mentality. But the reality of the situation is he spent 99.9% of his Everton career on the injury list and getting physio, and he spent the rest of it arguing with fans about why they couldn't do a better job than he could do. So I just don't think he's been a success. I think he left a bitter stain in a lot of fans' mouth when he was arguing and when he was on social media. Having that little bit of a fallout, and I just think now it's time to sort of shake hands and go. I don't want to go too deep into him for the Arsenal performance because he has only just come back from an injury, but if we're being totally honest with ourselves, he was absolutely abysmal, and it takes something when a player comes onto the pitch in the wrong socks, and that's not the main thing that makes him stand out. The main thing that makes him stand out is that he can't play footy. But listen, you can only sell these types of players if people bid for them, can't you? And this is where I sort of sympathise with Marcel Brands a bit, is if Fabian Delph still in Everton playing next season, everyone will go, well, why didn't we sell him? You can't just go out and drop him on someone's doorstep and say he's your player now. Teams have to bid, and I fully expect that if somebody bids for Fabian Delph, he will leave Everton Football Club, as he should. But look, listen, Everton have had awful injuries this season. Baz told me last week we're the only Premier League team to have had every single player out injured at any time this season. So it's good to see him return. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not, because ultimately we've got Doucouré out injured. We've got Gomez has been out injured. We've got a lot of players out injured. So when somebody returns, even if it's not somebody who is particularly going to have a massive impact, it's still good to see them return because ultimately he's still a name that can be involved. But yeah, again, it's just happy to see him back because happy to see players that are injured back, but he's not going to have an impact on this team, is he? Let's be honest.
Well, if he's a player that you're trying to get out the door, then it's good to have him back because, like against Arsenal, I think he brought him on just the shop window tactic, let other teams have a look at him. Obviously, maybe that's why he told him to wear white socks. Go out in white socks. You stand out a bit more. Hopefully, Watford or someone picks up on you and goes, "Hey, he could be all right when we come back up." But obviously, I don't know whether that worked for the best. I mean,
Leeds.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were 0-0 when he came on, and the game finished 1-0. So you could argue that it was an unbelievably great tactical substitution. Exactly. But he's a player that, if you look back at the Man City Prime, the Amazon Prime documentary thing, he was that character, wasn't he, in the dressing room? He was a proper leader, and he'd won a title, and he went into Man City, didn't he, play in a position that he didn't play. And won a title there. So looking back at the time, I was delighted when we signed him for 8 million. It's nothing really, is it? But obviously, it's not been for the best.
No.
So let's move on. There's been a lot of controversy in the past week or two. It seems to be not dying down, but it seems to be talked a lot less by the big authorities. Obviously, the UEFA chairman, is it Alexander Keferin? He's come out and said the teams will be punished. Obviously, I'm talking about the European Super League, and Florentino Perez has come out and said, "Oh no, these teams can't leave. They've signed a contract." So, how do you think? There's been a lot of speculation on how they should be punished this week, and obviously a lot of journalists and a lot of people really saying that you can't punish the fans. But who was saying that when Wigan went down and Sheffield went? Yeah, exactly. All these teams got punished, like the Leeds, Sheffield Wednesday, Bolton. Obviously, we mentioned last week who's bothered about them now, but what do you think a realistic punishment should be, especially if it turns out they have signed a contract, because they've not denied it, have they? And that can put them in a lot of trouble because at the end of the day, they broke the Premier League rules.
Yeah, well, I think a realistic punishment has to be. You mentioned the other teams that have been punished there. Your Berry fans lost their football club. Was that down to their fans? No, it wasn't down to their fans at all. It was down to shocking ownership. They lost their football club. I can't even begin to imagine what I'd feel like if Everton, if Everton went into liquidation and we lost Everton. Leeds the same. I think they got massive point deduction. Bolton the same. They got massive point deduction. So I think when you're looking at this, and some people are saying, "Oh yeah, just fine them." Fining a multi-billionaire 50 million isn't going to do anything whatsoever. Exactly. He'd probably go, "Yeah, look, get us me fourth wallet there, and there's a bit of change in there, and give that to them." The reality of the situation, Matt, is that I don't think they will be fined heavily, because I think the reason, and you said before, that everything's sort of starting to die down a little bit now. Everything's becoming a lot quieter, and that's because the Premier League, the UEFA, all of these organisations who claim to care about football. I mean, UEFA come out and said this is a spit in the face of all football lovers. But then as soon as those clubs said, actually, no, we don't want to join it, they were there with open arms to welcome them back. They don't care about football. They don't care about fans. They don't care about the history of the sport. They just care about the fact they were going to lose money. And that's why it's all died down now, and it's not talked about as much by the authorities, because now certain television broadcasters know they're not going to lose money. Now certain organisations, and whether it be the FA, Premier League, UEFA, they know they're not going to lose money. So they're not really bothered now, because these teams have come running back. They're not going to lose their money, and that's it. They'll punish them, because they know that if they don't punish them, then that's blatant. It's clear that all they care about is their pocket, and we all know that anyway. We're not soft. But in terms of realistic punishments, for me, it has to be. It's got to be bans from European competitions. Firstly, that's a necessity. If UEFA don't ban these teams from European competitions, then they've got no backbone. Whether it be 2 years, whether it be 3 years, whether it be 5 years, these clubs were happy to walk away and never play in a UEFA governed competition ever again. They all signed a deal, and all on that night they signed the deal said, "We've left UEFA now. We've gone. We don't want to be a part of it." Now they've come running back. Doesn't work like that. That's not how life works. So firstly, those clubs should be punished and banned from European competitions, Champions League, Europa League, UEFA Conference League, etc. Don't let them play in it for 5, 6, 10 years, whatever. The clubs you just mentioned, Matt, all of their fans, their players were punished for bad ownership. They didn't try and steal football, their owners. They just couldn't sort their finances out and ended up running them into administration. And some of them were deducted 15, 20 points. Some of them were banned from competitions. These owners have tried to steal football. So European bans for a start, and then points deduction for me, absolute necessity, because you can't let these teams get away with it. Otherwise, it happened with Project Big Picture. They said, oh, we're going to do this Project Big Picture. Then they said, oh, no, actually, and nothing happened to it. They just got a slap on the wrist. If they don't get punished for this one, then they'll go and do something else in 6 months. Again, it'll come up again because they know they can get away with it without getting punished. But if I'm being honest, mate, they won't get punished. They won't, because...
What was that, like 6 months ago, the Project Big Picture? And they turned it down. They said, no, you do not have a permission to go and join a breakaway league.
Yeah.
6 months later, they come back with the Super League, and they released a statement completely going against the Premier League. So they broke the rules. They broke the Premier League rules. They didn't have permission to join this breakaway league. And there obviously must be some sort of contract negotiation being signed or something for them to release a statement. You don't release the clubs would not release a statement over a letter of agreement or a WhatsApp saying fancy playing Super League next season. Yeah, go on then, release a statement. It doesn't happen. And obviously Wigan, I think I said this last week. Wigan, the EFL let a no-mark who didn't know how to run a football club and wasn't fit to run a football club buy a football club in the EFL, and then they punished the club for it.
Yeah.
Which was that fair?
That's the same situations we're in now. The Premier League and the EFL have let no marks who haven't got a clue about football and don't have football's best interests at heart run a football club, but because they've got a load of money. I think we said it on the podcast last week, not even being big-headed, not even trying to sound like the big I am. I reckon you could sit me down with any human being on this planet and it'd take me 5 minutes to know if they knew about football. I mean, John W. Henry sat down. I said this to a Liverpool fan, by the way. I was out having a drink with a couple of mates, socially distanced and all that, on Friday, and I sat down with a Liverpool fan and I said, did you know that one of those big 6 executive owners once said when he first watched this football club, which team are we? Which colour do we play in? And this lad said, one of my mates said, John W. Henry, straight away. Didn't even need to guess. He knew who it was. The Premier League have let these people come in and buy football clubs solely because they've got a lot of money and they're going to pump a lot of money into their organisation. Not because they've got the club's best interest at heart, not because they've got football's best interest at heart, just because they've got a lot of money. Now, I know there's a lot of Evertonians who have issues with Bill Kenwright and have had issues with Bill Kenwright throughout the years. But I remember 10, 15 years ago when Evertonians were screaming for Bill Kenwright to sell a football club, and he was adamant in, no, I'll only sell it to the right man. And maybe there was multi-billionaires left, right and centre wanting to sell, but he would only sell it to the right man. When Farhad Moshiri came out on TalkSport last week and said it's a disgrace, it's an utter disgusting, we'd never even consider anything like that, I just felt proud because I thought that's the right man. Because that could have easily been Everton last week. That could have easily been Everton, who was sold to a greedy billionaire who hasn't got the club's best interest in our hearts. And we could have been one of those big 6 clubs who joined up with them. And we could have all been sitting here saying we're disgusted and we're disgraced. But we're not, because Bill Kenwright and Farhad Moshiri, who had the club's best interest in our life. Yes, he's also a multi-billionaire, and we also spend a crap load of money. Obviously, that's football. Maybe in order to keep up with football, you have to do that. It's about doing it in the right way and having models, and none of those 6 owners have got models. But the reality of the situation is, Matt, none of those organisations that were threatened last week have got models either, because they won't fine them like they should. They won't punish them like they should, because they're worried about the money they're going to lose. If Premier League come out and say, well, right, now we're deducting 25 points off everybody. At the end of the season, we'll deduct 25 points from anybody. Arsenal will get relegated. Then the Premier League will go, well, hang on, we're probably going to lose a lot of money from Arsenal being relegated because of Arsenal's global fan base. So we won't do that because we'll lose a lot of money on that. It's not about what's right for football and what's wrong for football. It's about what's going to make us money and what's going to lose us money. And that's why they were so disgusted, is because they're going to lose money. And we all sat here and said, it takes something when we're all siding with UEFA and FIFA, who were 2 of the most corrupt bloody organisations on the planet. But the reason we were all siding with them is because we as fans had football at heart. They had money at heart, and that's why they're all happy now. And it's like, they've all come back. Yeah, they can play. Why are Real Madrid playing Chelsea last night? No, rid them all. Rid the pair of them. They agreed to walk away. Rid them. Give it to PSG. But they won't do it because they probably earned millions and millions of pounds off of last night's semi-final. So, again, it just we know it's a reflection on society, mate, and we know what society is and we know what football is in this day and age. And unfortunately, it'll probably never change and it'll only get worse. But I don't think they'll be punished heavily. They'll probably get a fine, maybe a slap on the wrist, and they might get a ban from the Carabao Cup or something like that for the season. They won't get banned from the European competitions, I'll tell you that, and they certainly won't get points deducted from the league. But did we expect any different, mate? Did we expect any different?
You're absolutely right. At the end of the day, I mean, you said in relation to society, it all comes out on money at the end of the day, doesn't it? Obviously, we've seen a lot of protests over the last week with Arsenal, with Kroenke, and United with the Glazers. But do you think the Glazers and the Kroenke family are really bothered about these fans outside the stadium, who they've already said they don't care about anyway?
No, they don't care, mate. They don't care one jot, and they know that the most important thing that these fans of these football clubs have to do now, i.e. Arsenal, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, they have to continue these protests constantly. When fans are allowed back in the stadiums next season, go and protest outside the ground again, do it in the stands, do it in the stadium. The only way that anything will ever change is consistency. Doing one protest, they'll just overlook it and go, they'll be all right in 2 weeks. Or in the summer when we sign. And football fans are fickle. They are fickle, because if Arsenal go out in the summer and sign, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a world-class...
Mbappe. They'll forgive him, won't they?
Or even Jack Grealish, they'll forgive him, and it'll be, oh yeah, brilliant, we've got this. Football fans are fickle, we all know that. The only way these owners will take note is if it's consistent and there's constant protest throughout the year, in grounds, in stadiums, outside, not just the odd fan putting a banner up or the odd fan scheming, everybody doing it. And these clubs need to get these owners out of football, because these people shouldn't be running football clubs whatsoever. But you're right, they don't care. They won't pay attention. They're not asked. In fact, they're probably sitting back with their feet up, laughing at them, going, look at them, all they're wasting their time thinking that we're going to walk. You know, I know that the Spotify owner has teamed up with, I think, Bergkamp, Henry, and Pete Mathew, signed by Arsenal. Again, I understand that they're footballing people. And listen, the reality of the situation with football clubs in this day and age is you need somebody who is business minded and who is football minded as well. And Carlo Ancelotti got it spot on when he talked about the Super League in his press conference. He said he's talking about American franchises and baseball and all of that, American sports. And he said there's nothing wrong with the way the Americans have their sport. There's nothing wrong with, basically, when you watch the Super Bowl, it's an advert every 5 seconds. There's nothing wrong with when you watch an American sport and it's filled with commercialization. There's nothing wrong with that, because the American audience like that. They accept that and they're happy with that. But that's not the way we do it in Europe. It doesn't mean that we're right and they're wrong. It's just not the way we do it. And the reality of the situation is with football is it's business, yes, but it's also football. It's not just business. And that's what these people have tried to make it, just a business.
Yeah.
But you're right, mate, on your point. They won't listen. They won't care. They won't be bothered.
Well, you mentioned the Spotify owner, didn't you? Is it Daniel Elk or something like that? He's a big Arsenal fan, isn't he?
Yeah.
But obviously we got the emails yesterday off Spotify saying, well, putting the prices up, and you're thinking, oh no, it's happening. But there's no way the Kroenke family's going to sell on, are they?
No,
not because of some Arsenal fans outside the stadium. They simply don't care about the Arsenal fans. But I feel a bit for obviously Daniel Levy, CEO of Tottenham. Do you think Daniel Levy didn't want to sort of miss out on an opportunity and think, oh, what if they don't sign up, and then there's massive repercussions? And the same with City, where they may end up being, they want to stay at the top and all this money's available. Obviously, they didn't need it, so I do feel a bit for those owners.
I get where you're coming from, and I do think that certainly City and probably Chelsea and Tottenham were maybe pushed into a corner by Man United, Arsenal, and Liverpool to sign, but I don't feel for them one bit, because ultimately they listen. Anybody with the right mind could have gone, this ain't working, this ain't going to happen, because there'll be protests, the whole of football will go against it, probably the rest of the Premier League will go against it, the rest of the world will go against it, so it'll fall to bits very soon. And when I done the streams last week, I said this will fall to bits, and when it does fall to bits, these clubs need punishing. So I do understand where you come from, and I get they probably were pushed into a corner a little bit and maybe forced to say, look, you sign this and you'll have this hundreds of million and you'll have this. Daniel Levy probably thought, brilliant, I signed this contract and the stadium's paid off, got no debt. City probably thought, brilliant, I signed this and half of our debt's paid off. Same with Chelsea. But the reality of the situation is, I think, as much as they might say, yeah, we were forced into a corner a little bit, they could have easily said, hang on, this is completely against football. This is completely against what the sport we play in. This is completely against the sport we've grown up loving. So I'm not signing for it. I think it's more, certainly with Abramovich coming out firstly and saying, yeah, we don't want to sign it. I think he's an owner who has probably looked at those protests outside the Stamford Bridge last week and gone, well, let's be honest, he's probably gone, I'm going to lose a lot of customers here, because that's all these people see football fans are, as customers. So he's seen them protests, and he hasn't gone like the Cronkies will or the Glazers will. I don't care, because Arsenal are a massive football club globally. Manchester United are a massive football club globally. Chelsea are, but they're not on that level of those two football clubs, in my opinion. So I think Abramovich has gone, I'm probably going to lose more money than what's worth doing this for, because I'm going to lose all of these supporters, so I'll back out straight away. Listen, I think personally, mate, in regards to City and Tottenham, I think all 6 clubs, well, certainly I think those 3, we're waiting for one to drop out. I think we're all looking at each other and go, who's going first? And as soon as Chelsea went, I think City went, yeah, we'll foul as well. I think Tottenham went, they're going, yeah, we'll foul as well. And I think the other 3 were sort of just pushed into a corner and went, yeah, we're going to have to go, because the fans aren't. Look at the way fans are reacting to it. I still think to this day, John W. Emery, the Glazers, and Stan Kroenke would go and join the Super League if it didn't have as bad of a reception. I honestly don't think they care about football whatsoever. I think they would join if Chelsea and City and Tottenham had gone, no, you know what, we get it's upset, but we're going to stick with it. Those 3 clubs would have stuck with it as well. They've only left because they've gone, shit, everyone else has left here, and we've got to try and make ourselves look good. The apology videos, the apology statements, it's all a load of nonsense. They don't care.
Let's move on before we get into the Aston Villa game. Obviously, we've seen the last couple of days the announcement of a Premier League Hall of Fame and the inductees. I don't know if you've seen it. Obviously, the first 2 inductees, was it Thierry Henry and Alan Shearer?
Yeah.
Is there anyone from Everton you could possibly imagine seeing on the Premier League the inductees of the Premier League Hall of Fame?
Probably Dennis Strachwalazi, if I'm being honest.
Strack.
Wayne Rooney's obviously the big name, isn't it? I know he spent the majority of his career at Manchester United. But I think on the current rules, from what I read, Wayne Rooney can't join because the players had to have been retired before the 1st of August 2020, and he wasn't. So I think he'll have to join at a later date for this inductee, whatever you want to call it. He couldn't join because he hadn't been retired by the date that he needed to be. But I think Wayne Rooney will be within the first 5, to be honest with you. Within the next 3, I think he'll be in there, and as he should. He's one of the best footballers to ever grace Premier League football. I've seen the rest of the list for players to join it. And it's mad, really, because there's a lot of players on there who individually were the best players at their club in the Premier League, but there's a lot that haven't won league titles. I mean, Slippy G's on there, and he's never won a league title. Ryan Giggs wasn't on the list I seen, which I found quite staying. Now, I think that the Ryan Giggs situation's a bit more deeper.
I think he would be on there. I think he would be on there, given his recent situation. Probably best that he's not.
That's what I mean. I think I've seen a lot of Man United fans go mad on Ryan Giggs, and I thought you're missing the point here. He's not on there because they haven't recognised. Ryan Giggs would probably be one of the 2, certainly one of the 3. If he wasn't in court at the moment for what he's in court for, and if he didn't have an 8-year affair with his brother's wife, he probably would definitely be on there. So that's probably why they're keeping him off of it. But yeah, I had no real issue with Thierry Henry and Alan Shearer, to be honest. That, again, top goal scorer in the Premier League, Alan Shearer. Thierry Henry was a very, very good player in his time. Was a part of a very successful Arsenal team. Very, in terms of his ability, he was an excellent player. But in terms of Everton players, I think you're probably looking at Wayne Rooney, obviously, but more so because he would have done for Man United. I'd say Leighton Baines. I'd say various other players, but they won't be on there because they might be on there at number 500 entry or something. But at the moment, the Premier League don't even recognise Everton at the moment as an half decent club, so probably not going to throw any ex-Everton players on there. But yeah, look, I think Wayne Rooney will be within the top 5 as soon as they change that rule. He'll be certainly up there. What about you, mate? Do you have any names?
Well, you mentioned Leighton Baines, so I suppose in terms of his numbers, you could well be in there, couldn't he? But
Gareth Barry, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'd say Gareth Barry.
Yeah. Well, hasn't he got the record most appearances?
Yeah.
But for Leighton Baines, in terms of left backs, I mean, there's obviously players like Dennis Irwin and Ashley Cole. Ashley Cole was the one that sort of overshadowed him in a way at the time. Obviously, he was in the England squad. But yeah, listen, Stevie G never won anything. Well, never won a league, should I say? Neither did Leighton Baines, but Leighton Baines was just his numbers show you he was a phenomenal left back. Yeah. But is there any other players from any other clubs that you're surprised got left out? I was surprised when obviously players like Yaya Toure. I was quite surprised when he was left off. Was there any for you?
I can't remember the list straight away, to be honest with you. Let me just get it up real quickly on the list. I'm getting text here from random numbers.
There was a few United players as well that they missed off, and I was thinking, obviously they can't just you're not going to put the whole of the 99 squad, are they, on the list? But there's quite a few that obviously there'll be inductees next year and the year after. So
yeah, I think obviously there's a lot of Chelsea and Man United in it. John Terry, Roy Keane. Was Gareth Barry in there?
I don't.
Was he?
I'm not sure. I don't think he was. I couldn't even remember. I couldn't recall any City players on it, to be honest.
So it'd be Gareth Barry. Would be one that I'm a bit strange about, because record most Premier League appearances, consistent throughout his years as well. Even playing for Everton at 33, 34 years of age, he was absolutely exceptional. So yeah, I'd say Gareth Barry. You mentioned Yaya Toure, then definitely Yaya Toure. Remember that the 2014 season?
Yeah,
when
13-14. Yeah,
absolutely unbelievable. He really, really was. But I think they'll add to the list. I think what they've done basically is just gone, we'll get a rough list together and we'll throw it out there, and then we'll add upon sort of. But I think certainly, look, I don't remember the years of like David Beckham and stuff, but I think David Beckham spent a lot of his career outside of the Premier League, didn't he? But he's obviously, because he's David Beckham. So yeah, look, I think I'd probably say, yeah, like you said, Yaya Toure, Gareth Barry. I think those two are definitely names that should be in there, and ultimately should be in the Hall of Fame. You think of Premier League, the first thing you're going to go to is, right, who's got the most goals in the Premier League? Alan Shearer. Who's played games in the Premier League? Gareth Barry. So I don't get it, but played for Everton, didn't he? So they'll probably chalk that one off.
Yeah, possibly. Well, let's move on to the Aston Villa game then. Are you feeling confident for this? Astley, obviously, is a home draw that we've not been so great at home this season. So are you feeling confident for this week's home fixture?
Yeah, look, I am feeling confident. I know we haven't been great at home this season. I know that, and I know that these types of games have been the ones that have tripped us up typically. But the reality of this situation is, I think, with the Villa game, is that, like I said before, I think we were a lot better against Tottenham than we have been recently at home. I think the Tottenham game was a lot more improved. And also, like I said, we really, really needed that win against Arsenal, because we need some momentum going now. 6 games to go. We've got a lot of winnable games in those 6 games. Wolves is winnable. They're shocking at the moment. 2 against Villa, very winnable. I think we've got Sheffield United in there, which is obviously winnable. And okay, we've got City away, which is going to be difficult. But for me, this has got to be a must win. It has to be a must win. Our name is still firmly in that hat for European football. Yes, we've still got a game in hand against Aston Villa, but we need to keep winning games, because other teams are going to keep picking up points, and it's so tight around those areas. You could finish 9th this season and only finish 2 points from 4th. It's that tight at the moment. So we need to start picking up points and hope that other team starts dropping points. And like I said, this is a Villa team who are a decent Villa team, got some decent quality players. Ollie Watkins, I like, obviously, Jack Grealish. They've got John McGinn, who I think is a really good player, but it still should be a Villa team. Now, if we're sitting there, Ned, if me and you, Ned, are sitting in, let's just say, I don't know, Spain or Germany or Croatia in the summer with our shorts on and a nice little top and Factor 50 on because I've already burnt, we'd like to be saying, yeah, we're good enough to beat a team like Aston Villa because we're now playing in Europe. And if you want to play in Europe, you'd have to be able to beat those types of sides. As good as big as a club Aston Villa are, no disrespect, Everton should be turning up and winning. And like I said, it's crunch time now. Performance-wise, yes, it'd be great to see us perform brilliantly and go out and put 3 or 4 past them, but performance is a second now, results are first. If we perform definitely and win, just get the 3 points, mate, and then move on to the next game.
Yeah, well, it's another game where, you know, you get 3 points, it's a chance to move up the table, so we just got to take that chance, because the amount of times I've said that this season, we've just not took the chance. We let ourselves down. We've been the own successor of our failure, I suppose you could say. So yeah, it's a massive game for us. So who would you like to see? We talked about centre backs before. Would you like to see Yerry Mina start this one? Obviously, he's come back from his injury now.
Yeah, I'd like to see Mina in there next to Godfrey, to be honest with you. And even though Mason had a good game the other day, he did, and I get that, it'd be difficult to drop Mason. I think Yerry Mina's 100% fit. He has to be in there because, like I said, I think he's our most dominant centre half. Certainly in the air as well. There's not a lot said about how good Yerry Mina is aerially. Yeah. And I think in recent weeks, when Yerry Mina hasn't been in the team, we've conceded a lot, or we've looked a lot. We've looked exposed with balls coming into the box. So when you've got Yerry Mina there, typically he gets them away. He's what, 6'5", 6'6", something like that. His heading's great. He throws himself in the way. So I'd say Yerry Mina, and then I'd probably have to say Ben Godfrey as well, because you can't leave Ben Godfrey out of this team. It's Ben Godfrey and then whoever else. And I think out of Mina, Keenan, Holgate, I put Mina in there personally.
I agree. What's your score prediction then for this Saturday?
I'm gonna go 2-1 Everton. I'm gonna go 2-1, 3-1, but I'm gonna go 2-1 Everton. I don't really see any game now between now and the end of the season being a 3-0, 4-0. I just don't see us running away with any game. But I think we should have enough to beat this Aston Villa team. And if we don't, then we're just going to be where we were 2 weeks ago, where we're saying, oh yeah, we had a bit of momentum and now we've ruined it again by drawing to Palace. So no, I think for me, I'm going to go 2-1.
I've got a lot of hope that we're going to finish the season strongly, so I'm going to say 2-0.
I'll take that.
Hopefully.
Happy days.
and then hopefully 2-0 at their place as well, which will probably at the moment be a couple of days later. God knows, because they've not told us at the time of recording this anyway.
Probably be before, mate. Probably be tomorrow night or something.
Yeah, exactly. Could be happening now. Let's go check.
Oh, we know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, Fabian Delph, come on in the wrong socks again.
Oh, for God's sakes. Still 2-0.
Yeah, well, 2-0 to Villa.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you very much for listening to the Toffee TV podcast. If you want more videos, exclusive live videos, then join us on Patreon. Make sure you check out Cameron's channel at The Mighty Blues on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.